I kept trying to come up with a way to react to the Forspoken gameplay reveal. It's like 2 weeks ago. They showed 10 minutes of the game. This was after that ridiculous Twitter ad that they had, where she was like, "Whoa, freaking dragons! I'm talking to a cuff. Yeah, that's something I can do now." All that stupid stuff. So, the reveal comes out. Game looks pretty good. Her powers remind me of Jesse's in Control. At least the effects, like how they look. The world looks like kind of like Horizon, not as candy colored, if that's the right word for it. The music, particularly the song where the girl's like moaning and groaning, sounds just like something out of Horizon. The thing is, though, every time I tried to react to it, it's like, there's really nothing to say. Okay, it looks good. She's jumping around, okay. But I'm not like interested in actually playing the game. I'm just like, okay, it's cool that they have an isekai with a black lead. I think she's black. That's the girl from Charlie's Angels and what is the Netflix Resident Evil. I mean, she looks good. In the game itself, I don't like how she's dressed. The fact that she's dressed is a problem, period. No, but but seriously, I don't like the look of the character. And now that I know, I think it was Skillup, who said that the production team or whatever, the development team who made Final Fantasy 15 are the ones.
This is from Luminous, the same studio that made Final Fantasy 15, and you can absolutely tell because there's a lot of that DNA present here in Forspoken, particularly when it comes to combat and world design.
Who made this game, so it makes sense that she has that look that those guys had, pretty much. I mean, it makes sense in the sense that I can see that those are the same team or whatever.
There were great. At 1 minute you're in the wilderness, the next minute you're where people are lounging, drinking sodas, reading the newspaper. You go up to a counter and the guy's like, "Oh."
I don't think that she should look like Tanya Roberts in Beastmaster. Though I wouldn't complain about that. But I just don't like. It's just dull. I'm not excited when I see her. I'm just like, okay, yeah, that's cool. She's just a girl wearing a potato sack with a cape in some bright space high jumpers, these glowing high kids. Okay, fine. This is just fine. This is a black girl jumping around, in a fantasy world, beating up on monstrosities out in this empty looking, kind of like a stage. It doesn't feel like a living, breathing environment. Like I said, it looks good. It's a game. It's a video game, so it doesn't have to be perfect. You can just play it, I'm sure, and have fun from afar. For me, I don't know. I think I've reached this existential crisis. It's been building up since The Last of Us Part 2, and it may have culminated with Horizon Forbidden West. Now, I did 2 videos on Horizon. I may do a third one on, to close out the trilogy. But there's really not much to say. This is why it's taken so long for me to do anything, because I don't have anything. The things I've complained about in the past was the fact that they made Aloy look like Nikki Avocado. Is that his name? I hated that. And then when I actually played the game, she doesn't look as bad as she did in the some of the gameplay reveals before the game came out. But she still looks pretty downgraded from how she did in the first game. They basically just made her look exactly like the model who they based her on looks now. Even, I was talking about the rosacea, but even that skin, whatever her skin looks like, it's, sunburnt, weather beaten or whatever. The model posted a picture recently, and she had those same marks. So they just went, and this woman now, she's in her 30s. Aloy is 18, 19, 20. I think they say she's 21, but I think she's that old. They just say that because she's got to be appropriate age. I don't know. Not that she's even doing anything now with anybody. A lot of it is just dull, dead from the waist down gaming. You beat up on dinosaurs, you lose some friends in the storyline, and That's it. And I think the only thing that's going to happen in the next game is you're just going to have your, remaining group of friends. They're all going to be representative of either an insufferable black woman, a healthy to any size guy, a disabled guy, boring Aloy who has no interest in anyone, an old black guy. It's just going to just be that. It's just going to be boring and just whatever. It's hard to describe because it's serviceable. If you just want a distraction, you can play Horizon Forbidden West forever.
This is bad news. Crystal Dynamics does not care about Lara Croft and Tomb Raider. They've constantly bashed the classic Tomb Raider, classic Lara Croft. They've hated on Lara for being this curvy bombshell, and they continually try to uglify her. They continually try to make her as basic as possible and as vulnerable, as weak as possible. We're getting that femme fatale has been erased and taken from us. And
and, fine, you'll just be beating up dinosaurs or whatever. And, that's it. I mean, you won't be that invested in it. And I think, it'd be one thing if you're not thinking about, you're just playing the game. It's like, whatever, how she looks. But you see her all the time. So it's just annoying because you know that Aloy, her friends, the people you meet, they're all ugly on purpose. It's like, sure, we'll let you play video games, but we're not going to let you have fun with it. We're going to make you remember that the real world is right outside your door. So that's the energy I get from Forspoken. There's just this sense that we've made a black female lead. I think she's black. She might be mixed with something. I don't know. We made a female lead. She's in an isekai. It's a brand new IP, so I'm not mad at any of that. I just know that when you make certain choices in a video game these days, they're all done in service of Twitter. They're like the Comics Code Authority of everything right now. Twitter. It's like you have to run everything by Twitter or, Polygon or Kotaku before you can release it. So you have this black girl, but she's not going to be she's not going to look good. They're just going to throw her in some kind of little leather outfit. And yeah, it's fantasy appropriate. That's fine. There are still things they can do. Like I said, she doesn't have to look like Tanya Roberts from Beastmaster or Diana from Dungeons and Dragons or whatever. But still, you could make her look more exciting and interesting. Give her some tighter, shapelier clothes with the cape. Something. But then that's something look, that's not just the main thing. I'm just looking at that going, there's so many choices where this game is just going to be very bland. It's going to seem just like any other AAA game that comes out now, where everything is like a lecture. Even if they're not actually actively talking to you, when you're playing it, you're looking at certain things, you're going, if this was 10 years ago, she'd be looking like this. She'd be dressed like this. She'd be acting like that. And that's another thing, the story itself. So the reason why I'm able to talk about it now is because there's a couple of videos that came out where people did previews. Skill Up, Young Yeah, IGM, GameSpot. Those are the only ones I watched. And
so we didn't have all 100 plus magical abilities at our disposal, but the 22 abilities we did juggle were varied and interesting. This included 2 surge abilities, aka your super move, 6 main attacks, aka your go-to punchy or shooty moves, and 14 sub or support attacks, aka one-time use magic abilities that enter a cooldown period after use. Phrase magic included 3 main attacks, burst shot, shield shot, or scatter shot, which are typical projectile abilities that send projectiles outward to shoot things from a distance. Of course, all these main abilities can be charged to shoot larger projectiles, but you're also left vulnerable during that time. The secondary attacks are support based, so you'll use things like bind to tie up opponents, leech to summon poison curing plants, screen to summon stones around you as a rock shield, disperse and implant to create plant turrets to auto attack, or prime to lay a magic trap that will blow up should someone step onto it.
They all talked about different aspects of the game that they found interesting or that they didn't like. And the thing that stuck out with me was, because then, when they played this game, apparently they didn't actually play any of the story elements. But something I noticed in the reveal myself, the one that they first showed a couple of weeks ago, was I didn't like the voice for the cuff that she's talking to. And I didn't like the banter between the two of them. They both sounded like snarky idiots. Like, I felt like, can't you temper this where if Frey is new to this world and she's got these powers, and she feels a little drunk on these powers, maybe she can talk some shit before she gets into a fight. But the Cuff would caution her and talk to her and say, hey, look, chill, don't get too cocky, kid. But no, they both, talking noise about, we about to lay these mofos out. And apparently that's what's going on when you play the game. That's what they've been listening to. So apparently it seems like no one really likes, I think GameSpot might have been the only one who was like, oh, I like the banter between the two. But it did get a little bit much when you're fighting. So I don't know, whatever. I'm just making that voice. It's not even a straw man voice, but just...
My God, do these two talk so freaking much. I'd be more tolerant of this if the dialogue was at least, good, but it just feels like the game is constantly trying to be quippy and funny while consistently failing at it. Greatest hits include Frey saying, were you counting how many asses we kicked there? Or, I'm literally the best. I should make an effort more often. Or Frey exclaiming, oh my God, that was insane, after I performed a not so insane, pretty basic open world mobility maneuver. Frey saying, what do you say, kick some ass and take some names, before the Cuff responds with, feeling a little bloodthirsty, are we? Prior to a combat encounter. And that's just like scratching the surface. I didn't write down or memorize all of them. There's just a lot of that kind of useless, unnecessary, and not clever or compelling dialogue that gives players no valuable information or no dynamic developing moments. And when that kind of dialogue is constantly and incessantly in your ear, it becomes insufferable and genuinely intolerable. It was driving me nuts. Making matters worse is how constantly and unendearingly combative and mean-spirited Frey and the Cuffs are towards each other, making both characters kind of unlikable and their dynamic unbearable.
I mean, I thought everything that they said, it seems like between, with IGN and GameSpot, they were the most positive. Skill Up and Young Yeah were the most, like they're not tied to, these big websites. So, they sounded more genuine and were more critical.
It's a fast and frenetic game, giving you a whole host of abilities to use against enemies. While you have to think about how best to use all the magic weapons at your disposal, the fun of Forspoken is in the speed. It relies less on methodical planning and more on hitting opponents with everything you've got. The demo we played took place in a series of vast fields, craggy valleys, and swampy lowlands. Most of the time, you'll be getting around with Forspoken's magical parkour system, which has been a big highlight of trailers and gameplay videos so far. Holding down a single face button on your controller activates the ability, which causes Frey to bound forward and to automatically climb up or spring off any obstacles that get in her way. You can't parkour forever though. Frey has a limited amount of stamina that has to be recharged after a while.
But I don't know. We'll see. I say we'll see, but I won't see because I don't think I'm going to get it. I've been looking online for a lot of like small indie games to play. I ended up playing Stray because I was done with AAA games. I've been playing after I finished after I finished Horizon. I stopped playing games for a while. Then I went back to Cyberpunk once they did the like a couple of weeks after they did the 1.5 or whatever. Played that for a while. Then I went into the Order to play that. I just played older games. And then Stray came out, great little game with the cat. And I see a couple of other little games that I'd like to get now and play that. So, in future videos, you'll probably see the footage when I talk over or whatever. But, yeah, man, I have this existential dread. I don't know if I've mentioned that yet about AAA games. Going forward, I'm not sure if I'm really going to care about video games the same way, or at least about AAA games. Like, I'm not looking forward to God of War. I'm not going to buy it yet. I'm going to wait and see people play it and decide if I want to buy it. I just think the mentality with everything now, everybody is making the same choices, the same decisions. I remember some guy on Twitter who worked on the new God of War was like, I was trying to get him to talk about kissing men. And it's like, okay, see, no, I'm not going to buy this game because I don't trust these people. They already got a black Norse lady in it. They turned a Norse god into a black woman. I don't trust when they do stuff like that. That affects the story or the way that they tell the story. And I don't know how they're going to screw it up this time, but I'm going to wait and see before I decide to actually buy it. So, yeah, I just don't know. I'm trying to think of any big AAA games that I'm really excited about coming, in the future, and none of them. I'm going to say maybe the next Mass Effect game. That'll be some years away. Don't trust them, especially not after what they did to Miranda in this remaster, the recent remaster. Fun game to play, but it's just going to get worse and worse before it gets better, I think. So, got all this great technology, but everybody's afraid to use it to make their games interesting and exciting. Beyond, gameplay and stuff, which is fine, but, there's a certain level of, spice and personality and charm and interesting, sex appeal and stuff that they just don't want anymore. They just wiped out.
And I've been getting a lot more into retro gaming again because I am so tired of the state of modern gaming, and I have been for years now. So at this point, I haven't been gaming near as much as I usually do because I don't like new stuff.